Hello and welcome to another episode. I think this is number 20 of Redacted Nuisance, this weird little 10 to 15 minutes of Tinternet where I just record straight off. I don't even listen back to it. There is zero editing. This is the lowest, in some ways, the lowest effort podcast you'll ever listen to, so thank you for listening. I'm Dr. J, use they as a pronoun. This is called Redacted Nuisance because if I called it Queer Nuisance, which is what I wish to call it, which is an identity that I've had for a very long time. I went to a talk by Sarah Ahmed. She talked about this notion of queering a space by being a queer nuisance and what a nuisance was within a space. And I built this whole brand around being a queer nuisance, but I also realized that branding this whatever this is as queer nuisance will mean that there's a lot of people who don't get to access it. So I've called it redacted nuisance, not because I'm ashamed of my queerness, but because I'm finding a way to parkour around the sensibilities of others and the restrictions that others face to get this out there, because I think it's important for people to hear. Well, I don't think it's important for people to hear me. I mean, quite frankly, who the fuck am I? Who the fuck am I to even bring across some of these ideas? But for people to hear another queer voice, to hear a voice that is just talking about the things of the world, the things that they're going through. So one of the things I was going to ponder on is flag nonces. Now, for those who don't know British, English, for those who are not aware of the English nuances of some of the slang and some of the verbiage, a nonce is generally a paedophile. They're a wrong'un. It's always been used that I'm aware of in the terms of somebody is a bit of a wrong'un. Their desires are for people younger than they should be. They might, a nonce is often somebody who is not somebody we want in our group. They're the sort of person you're like, you're a bit of a nonce. I don't want you around anyone who I know and care about. And in my mind, it's used as a kind of fairly gentle, but still, it's gentle on the swearing level, but it still very clearly pronounces that this person is a wrong'un. Now, I'm going to call them flag nonces because these are the people who are clearly slightly wrongly informed, wrongly thinking. They're not the sort of people I want to associate with, who run through London with flags and proclaim that all immigrants shouldn't be here. And as somebody who is an immigrant, even though they don't see that when they look at me, and in fact having discussions with some of them, they're like, but you're not a migrant, you're an expat. And I say, what makes me an expat? And I push them and I push them, and I will eventually get them to say the quiet thing out loud, which is, you're an expat because you're white. And you're white and you came from a colonized country, a country that we colonized, but you're a white person from that country. Therefore, you're an expat and not a migrant. Which is sickening. And these people have 10, 15 years ago were told that their notions around migrants, their notions around women, their notions around the queers, just lumping us all under the queers, were not the sort of things they could state in public. They were told, you're a bit of a fool for stating this. We laughed at the English Defence League. We created the English Disco League to fight it. Unfortunately, it has become expedient for people in political power to open that door and say to people, it's okay to have these thoughts and these voices and unchallenge them. And in my mind, people have these thoughts and have this and have these feelings about people who are different from them simply because they're frightened. And I understand it. It's a scary world out there. And we're all scared. We're all scared. We're all being fucked over by billionaires and fucked over by governments. Don't even get me started. But we're being fucked over. And unfortunately, some people are being told not to rally against the billionaires, not to go against the people who really have the power to push them down, but to look at the people who have less than they have and be jealous of anything that they get. To be jealous of somebody's freedom. To be jealous of somebody's desire for freedom. Because if you're scared and you're told that you should fear somebody and you should be jealous that they get anything, that's a very easy message. And when you're frightened and you're not able to think critically. And let's be clear on this. A lot of these people are fine one-to-one. If I run into them somewhere in the pub or something, or they are at a party that I'm attending, they will be wonderfully curious. They'll be polite. They'll ask me about coming over here. They'll ask me about being a migrant to this country. They'll ask me about that experience. They will empathize with me on why I left where I grew up. They will understand why I came. They will understand. They will be like, hey, you've done really well. You've managed to do this. You've managed to do that. We will have a good conversation. But en masse and frightened, it's a scary group of people. And when there are agitators who are using them to gain power, you've got to be aware. We're aware of that from the outside. They're not aware of that from the inside. I'm aware of my vulnerability to be pushed, to have my buttons pushed. I'm aware of my vulnerability to be frightened and to look at something and go, I'm going to react to this. Hey, it's one of the joys of CPTSD. You're hypervigilant, you're hyper-aware, and you spend a lot of your life anxious and scared of the world. And I'm aware that I can be frightened of people who might individually be really comfortable with me, who might individually go, hey, you're okay. You're a decent person. You listen to me, you have a conversation. Oh, wow, that's nice. And yet they will still be frightened of the things that I represent. They will still be frightened of migrants. They will be frightened of people who've come here legally. They will talk about illegal people coming here. Nobody's illegal. Nobody is illegal. People are coming here. They're crossing borders to try and do exactly what they're doing. What the flag nonces are doing, which is have a better life. Have a life that makes sense. Have a life that gives them a sense of purpose, a sense of safety, a sense of accomplishment. Those are very small things. And the fact that somehow the billionaires and the political elites of this world have driven people apart who literally want the same thing. They want their kids to have a better world to grow up in. They want to have a safer way of living. They don't want to feel under threat, and they want to be able to be themselves. I have no problems with that, with anyone wanting to do that. I have a problem with the billionaires who have decided to throw in division, and people who are in their thrall, people who think that if I do what these large groups advertise and say, I'm going to end up with slightly better options. You're not. And I'm really sorry, but you're not. And I call them flag nonces because I watched them around the South Bank. And they were protesting all these immigrants and all these migrants and all of these people, and saying we must be British for the Britishers, or whatever nonsense that they said, which is why nonce works really well. They then came to a food market which was run almost entirely by migrants, where all of the food was from other countries, and they quite cheerfully queued up to get food and queued up to get beer that was not British, and queued up to do things with no sense of irony, no sense of understanding, because they had just spent hours protesting migrants and then bought food from the same people that they protested. And they would turn around and they would justify this in some way. And it's understanding that they're running from fear, that that's all that they're running from, and that it is our fear is being driven up, so we divide, and we don't recognise who the real enemy is, which is quite frankly the oligarchs and billionaire technocrats that are controlling how we can communicate to each other, that are controlling, they even control this. That's why it's called redacted nuisance, because if I called it queer nuisance, the techno oligarchs would not allow this to get out in the same way.